I am familiar with the father in this story. He has tried to reach out to me before, asking how to bring the dead back to life. I have told him many times that I cannot bring the dead back to life, nor do I know any ways that can be used to bring back the dead when their bodies are completely destroyed. The following story was brought to me by a young woman who wanted her dad's story shared. It is as much a cautionary tale as it is a promise. There are a few different ways to bring back the dead, although the dead are almost never brought back the same way that they left. People deserve a chance to learn and try again. However, sometimes it is better to let go. Sometimes it is better to change. Sometimes it is better to simply let the dead stay dead. Let them remain in your memories as who they were, rather than bring them back and try to make them be something they will never be. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was my dad's crying face. I saw him crying and I reached out my hand towards him. I was weak. My hand did not quite reach, but I tried, and when I tried, he cried again, this time in a different tone as he started to talk to me. Ada? Ada, is that you? Can you hear me? Daddy asked, and I opened my mouth to speak. It was so dry, all I could do was make a weak moan, but he seemed to take that as a yes. As he held my hand and he lifted a glass of water with a straw to my mouth. Take it easy, drink this water. You were very sick, but you're starting to get better, he said as he held the water glass with the pink straw to my lips. As I drank the water hurt as it slid into my dry mouth and throat. I drained the entire glass before I could finally speak. Where's Mommy? Where's Adrian? I asked as Dad poured more water into the glass before bringing it back to me so I could drink from it some more. As I drank from it, the water hurt me a lot less. I could feel my heartbeat. It was sluggish and weak, but it was reassuring to feel it. While I drank the water and my heart grew stronger, Daddy asked me, what is the last thing you remember? He asked in that voice that made me feel like I did something I wasn't supposed to, even if I didn't know what it was I did wrong. I thought back, and the last thing I could remember was carrying Adrian outside. There was a large campfire outside, and then things got less clear. I remember the smell of cooking pork, warmth on my face, flames flickering around me. I was at a campfire. That was the last thing, I told my daddy, even though I could dimly recall things happening afterwards. Those memories felt more like a dream than anything else. I remembered that there was another girl my age. She had a beautiful dress and a big hat. She held my hand as we walked across the bridge. I saw she was crying, and when I asked why, she only cried more. She then hugged me when I asked if she needed it. I asked her if I could wear her colorful hat, and she said no. As we walked across the bridge, I saw many scary things swim beneath us. Big things that swam barely below the surface. As I walked across the bridge, I was told not to look down as I walked across the bridge that was over a stormy sea, beneath a calm but empty sky. And then I remembered sitting before others who sat above me. There were so many that I could not see any of their faces. I remember holding the hand of the girl who was the same age as me, but I also remember being held by a woman with golden eyes. She reminded me of Mommy, but she wasn't Mommy. She spoke with those looking down, and so did the girl with the hat, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was some kind of grown up talk, but then it got dark before I dreamt that I woke up, and then I remember falling asleep and waking up. It was strange. It was like I was in a dream, and inside of the dream, I was dreaming that I was asleep. And then I woke up before going back to sleep, and then waking up into the dream again. How long was I dreaming about dreaming? How long did I think I was waking up before I actually woke up? Am I awake now? I think I was dreaming for a while, but it gets really fuzzy, I told Daddy, who hugged me close. He shushed me as I was held close. I felt something wet fall from my eyes, but I wasn't sad, so it couldn't be tears. Don't worry about that. You were sick, but you're better now. Adrian and Mommy are still sick, but you're better now. You'll get better soon, too. And you're still a little sick, so you'll have to stay in your room, Daddy said as I looked over my room. It was familiar, but it also looked different. There were posters of flowers and teddy bears along the walls. There were dolls and horses on the shelves, but they weren't the dolls and horses that I remembered. Annabelle, Vanis, Chucky, Billy, and Tiffany weren't there. Instead, there were various rag dolls with red yarn hair that I didn't recognize. Even my horses were different. Instead of Troubleclef, Muffin Hose, or Forlorn, there were horses I did not recognize. Made to look like actual horses instead of the horses from the cartoons I recognized. There were no windows in my room anymore, but my curtain still hung from the wall, yellower than I remembered, but it was the same curtains. My room didn't have a bathroom before, and I noticed that the bathroom didn't have a mirror. Where are we? I asked Daddy, who shook his head like I asked a silly question. What do you mean? This is your bedroom. I know you've been sick for a while, but surely you recognize Annabelle, he said as he grabbed a rag doll from the shelf and put her in my hands. This was definitely not Annabelle. This doll was little more than poorly stitched rags brought together. Annabelle had two mismatched button eyes, one red and one blue to match my own eyes. This doll in front of me had two blue button eyes. Annabelle had a red dress made from smooth cloth. This doll had a green dress that was made out of rough cloth. Annabelle had brown hair cut short to match my hair. This doll in front of me had red hair down to her shoulders. Annabelle was made by my Nana. This doll looked like it was made by someone who didn't know how to make a doll. This isn't Annabelle. Where is Annabelle? I asked him, and he shook his head as he pressed the doll into my arms. This is Annabelle. She has hair that matches yours. Her eyes match yours, and she was made by your Nana, he said as he pushed the doll into my arms, and as he pushed the doll, I got angry. I don't know why I got angry. It was a bunch of little things. Daddy wasn't acting normal. The bedroom wasn't right. The missing mirror. The fact the water hurt my throat. I just got angry at everything. This isn't Annabelle, I said as I weakly threw the doll at the door, leading to the hallway. The door was shut, so it didn't leave, which was also strange, since it was never supposed to be closed. This isn't how my Ada behaves, Daddy said in a mean voice that caused me to shrink in my bed. I don't know why he said that, but I flinched and he simply stood up and he grabbed the doll and gave it to me again. This time I took it without saying anything as he smiled. There you go. Now keep getting better and soon you can see Adrian and Mommy again. But for now, keep getting better, he said as he left, and that defined our next few days. Every day he would come in to bring me water or soup, and then after spending a few minutes together, he would leave me alone. I think he thought I was asleep, but I didn't sleep. Sometimes I would lay in the darkness and look up at the ceiling, or I would close my eyes when Daddy checked on me from the hallway, but I didn't sleep anymore. I didn't dream anymore. I didn't get tired, and every day I got stronger. After a few days, I was able to walk myself to the bathroom and back. Then I was walking around my bedroom, usually when I was bored, but I stopped walking around when Daddy said it was night. I think he expected me to sleep, and he told me to get lots of sleep, and I did try. I tried really hard, but I couldn't even get close to sleep anymore, and I wasn't allowed to leave my bedroom. When I asked Daddy if I could, he told me that I still needed time to get stronger. I was getting stronger, but I missed looking outside. I missed the grass, the feeling of sunlight, the way the moon reflected in the water. I missed it all, and I didn't know how long I was stuck in my room. But it was long enough that I was outgrowing all of my clothes. It felt like every few days I had to have new clothes brought in, clothes that Daddy kept insisting were my favorite. He got me pink and floral patterns. I don't know how he forgot that my favorite was yellow and polka dot patterns, but when I tried to ask him for different patterns, he told me that these were actually my favorite. Every time he came in with clothes, he cut my hair so it would stop from growing. He would always give me the same haircut, and he would brush my hair and leave it in pigtails. Soon Daddy kept track of my growth on the door frame next to the hallway door. According to the door frame, I was now 212 centimeters tall. I was definitely taller than Daddy was then, but still he told me I was too weak to go outside. All the little things kept happening, and I had to keep pretending I never noticed. He kept bringing up everything I was doing wrong. He didn't like the fact that I would put my arm through the outfits one at a time instead of both at once. He didn't like the way I frowned at everything wrong around me. He didn't like the way I grabbed the spoon, and he didn't even like my voice. He kept saying that what I was doing wasn't the way his Ada would behave. I don't get it. I am Ada. How could I behave wrong when I am only acting like myself? There isn't any other way for me to act, and it only made me angrier and angrier as he started spending less and less time with me. It started one day when he just didn't come into my room at all, nor the next day, nor the day after that. I was alone for so long. I don't know how long I was alone, but I did get hungry. My hair was down to my waist, even in my pigtails. I read every book hundreds of times. There was no food, so I tried to open the door leading to the hallway. It was unlocked, although the hallway was not what I remembered. The hallway I remembered was wooden, and it had pictures of all of us. This hallway was dingy. The bulbs above were barely lit, and it was white-stained drywall, although there were still pictures on the walls. The picture frames were cracked, but I could still see the pictures. They looked like how I remembered. There were pictures of us in the park, at the beach, and even at birthday parties. I was wearing a yellow dress with polka dots in all of them except one, the picture we took during Daddy's birthday. I remember that the pink dress was a new dress, and the next day there was the campfire. The last thing I remember before all of the dreams and walking across the bridge. There was another door at the end of the hallway. I gently pushed it open, and I could see it was my parents' bedroom. I recognized the bed and the dresser, even if I didn't recognize the room itself. There was a window with metal bars on it. The sunlight shone through, and I could see a shape underneath the blanket. Familiar brown hair showing through. Mommy's hair. Mommy? I asked as I reached across and I pulled off the covers. When I saw what was underneath the covers, I held my hand to my mouth in horror. If it wasn't for the hair, I wouldn't have recognized the body in the bed. She only had one arm left and two short sticks for legs. The arm was almost skeletal with how thin it was. The skin was wrinkled like a raisin, and the skull was pulled back with the teeth showing all around with no lips left. The lower jaw was not able to close, and the tongue was purple and dry. The eye sockets were sunken, but the eyelids were still closed. Even shrunken and mummified, the eyes were kept shut. I could see glue was holding it shut, and underneath Mommy's hair was a line of staples leading from the top of her head all the way down to the nape of her neck. Her legs were missing entirely, leaving two stick-like bones where her thighs used to be. It was her torso that was the most horrifying part of her. She wore no clothes, and I could see crude black stitches holding her body together. Her chest cut like it was a large letter Y. Her stitches had no chance to heal, and I could see yellow bones inside with fine brown grain spilling out of the wounds of her chest and onto the bed. Sawdust. Mommy was cut open and filled with sawdust, and it was spilling out of her. I wanted to scream, but all that came out was half a chuckle as Mommy's hand twitched on her chest and she tried to weakly reach up to me. Her last hand was in iron chains that kept her from moving. Her other arm was completely missing, leaving only a nub at the shoulder. Even now, when she should be dead, she should be long since dead and buried. She was cut open, filled with sawdust, her eyes glued shut, her body dried out, her head sealed with staples. How was she still moving? I reached out to grab her hand weakly. Mommy, what happened to you? I asked my poor mother. I could only hear a weak hiss as she finally answered. Our father, she said as I heard the door close behind me. I turned to face it as I saw father lock it when he held bundle in his arms. I see you found your mother. I warned you Mommy was sick. She still is, but don't worry. I finally figured it out. I figured it all out. Daddy, what did you do? It's all so very simple. She was the first. She had seen everything. She had to be the first. She was the only one who had a body left over. Sure, I had to dig her up. Sure, the mortician made a mess of her body, but she still had a body. There was still a place for the soul to return to. It was messy the first time, but I learned so much, and getting messy is the best way to learn. She couldn't stand the way she looked, so she decided to leave us again, leaving another mess for me, Dad said as he chuckled, barely looking at me. At the time I didn't understand. Now I think he just needed a release for all he had done, and I was the only one who could listen, the only one who could understand. No matter how many times she tried to leave, I always found her. I always brought her back. Whether she ran out into the woods or even if she found a way to die, I would always find her. I would always bring her back. She learned. She had to learn because I had to teach her. I removed her legs and she learned that no matter how she died, I would just bring her back to her body. Anything she did to kill herself would only make her body less tolerable. Her arm is now in chains and she can never leave. But she had to be the first. I needed a body to bring the soul back to. I need a body to put the soul into. He chuckled to himself as he continued, and I had no idea what he was going to do. You cannot bring a soul back without a vessel to put it into. Oh, you can, but if you do, you get a ghost. You get something you can't control, something you cannot keep. I didn't just need to bring back my little Ada. She had to be my little girl. She needed a body. You didn't, he started as Daddy kept going. I had to. There has to be a body for the soul to return to. It took weeks before I found a body that was good enough. It took even longer to trick it away from its parents. Once captured, the body had to die the right way. If I just stabbed or cut its neck, then the body would have been as broken and as useless as your mother. If I killed it too quickly, then I wouldn't have been able to make a deal. When you're negotiating, you have to tantalize, whet its appetite, make it crave what you are offering. It had to die, and it had to die slowly. I had to get your soul back. It wasn't in Pandemonium, it was somewhere else. Getting a soul back from there is so much harder. So you cannot just make a deal with the devil. No, you have to get an angel to beg you to make a deal. You have to make the body suffer and die so slowly, barely getting enough water to survive, barely getting enough calories for the heart to beat, starve and dehydrate so slowly that they're always languishing, but never quite dying. You have to get it suffering so much that it prays for death. Get it to hate you so much that even the gods and angels weep. You have to make the soul so much sweeter and so much more savory. Make it suffer so much that the angels don't want it to marinate any longer in sin to avoid being sent to Pandemonium. By the time they came for its soul, I told them I wouldn't only let it go if they gave me a soul to replace it. Your soul, and they agreed. And finally, I let it leave for judgment, and we brought you back. We had a body for you, but you didn't come back right. You were angry at me. You were in pain. You didn't behave like yourself. You destroyed anything I brought to you to remind you that you were my little girl. But you came back wrong, and there was little I could do, so I had to start over. Start over? I squeaked, and he nodded. Funny thing, it is a lot easier for me to kill my wife than it was for me to kill you. I had to kill you again. I had to try again with a different body. I had to lure another little girl away from its family. I had to torture it, deprive it, make it suffer, and exchange its savory, marinated soul for your soul. But I was more careful. I carved away little parts of you, the parts of you that remembered coming back, parts of you that remembered heaven, parts of you that were angry with me. You were more compliant the second time, but still you weren't right. Your favorite color changed. You weren't angry at me, but you were still violent. You thought we were playing when you picked up the knife and chased me. It was easier to kill you then, although I wish you took longer before you stopped acting like Ada. So I had to keep trying. I had to keep trying. There were so many bodies, but it was all worth it because I learned so much. In fact, you're almost Ada. I think if I had just one or two more chances, I could get you right. I am perfect the way I am. Please, don't kill me, Daddy, I said with tears in my eyes. He shook his head, not caring. He only looked down at the bundle in his arms. Ada, you'll be fine. Dying is not a big deal. You'll just go to sleep for a little bit, and you will come back perfect. You won't even remember. And you should be proud. I had to practice a lot on your mother before I could get you, and I had to practice so much on you before I could get Adrian. His soul will be the easiest to shape. He was already pure when you killed him. There was hardly anything I needed to cut away. Although getting him a body was so much harder. You won't believe how delicate infant bodies are until you try to make them suffer without dying, he said with genuine pride in his voice as he held out Adrian to see. Isn't he the most adorable thing in the world? He asked as he held out the infant for me to see. The baby in his arms was not normal. The skin was blue, and I could see spider veins across the entire face. And those eyes. The baby was barely breathing. Even if he does die, I can just bring him back. Don't you realize it? We can finally have the perfect family. Death cannot touch us, and you don't have to grow up. You can always stay my little girl, and Adrian can always be my baby. Every time either one of you gets too old, I can just get you a new body and cut away everything that keeps you from being pure. And we can do this forever. We have a beautiful gift, Ada, and all you have to do is just head to your room. I will take care of you soon, and you'll forget everything, he said before I finally responded. I will never be a part of this. This isn't right. I don't want to die. I don't want you killing any of us, I told Daddy as he shook his head. You aren't my Ada. If you were my Ada, you would have agreed. My Ada was always Daddy's little girl. This just proves that you don't deserve life. Don't worry, you'll be brought back soon enough. You'll finally be perfect, and we can finally have the perfect family, he said as he pulled out a large knife from his pocket, as he held the knife close to Adrian's face. Now, you have a choice, Ada. Go quietly, or you can be responsible for someone's death, he said as he held the knife close to the blue baby's face. I didn't think, I didn't plan. I just ran forward into Daddy. He clutched Adrian close to his chest, dropping his knife as I pushed him through the door. Apparently, the door wasn't very strong. It was almost cardboard-like on the inside as he fell down, his head slamming into the floor. Stunned and speaking gibberish on the floor, Daddy lied there as I grabbed Adrian from his arms as I ran down the hallway. When I made it to the kitchen, I called the Vanguard. The 112 number still drilled into me. When the Vanguard arrived, they had to break down the door, and it took a lot of convincing from the medics before I finally let Adrian go. As I was taken down to the station, Daddy was taken out in handcuffs, Mommy was taken out in a bag. At the station, I told them everything I could as they examined Daddy's isolated house. I learned from the Vanguard that he inherited the house from his parents after they died, before he started his eldritch rituals. They found over a dozen different little girls' bodies and over 20 infant boys. I also learned that Daddy had been doing this for years, a lot longer than I thought. The medic told me that I wasn't actually 6 years old like I thought. Apparently my body was 12 years old, although I don't know whether Daddy kept me in the room for 6 years or if he started using the bodies of older girls to have somewhere to put my soul. They did confirm that it was almost 20 years later than I thought it was. I had been dead for 20 years, and now I was trapped in a body that is a lot older than where my mind is at. So now I'm in a special home where I am supposed to learn and catch up to my peers. Although I don't know if I will ever feel like an adult, I definitely don't think I'm human anymore. When I look in the mirror, I see a face that isn't mine. My eyes are the wrong color. The hair doesn't feel right, no matter how many times I brush it. My steps don't work right, and even though I get regular meals now, I still don't sleep. I stay awake every night, staring up at the ceiling above or looking outside into the forest. Sitting still for hours at a time, watching the world change around me while I remain the same. Even as my body changes and grows, I still feel the same. Even when my father's execution was announced, even when it was shown live on television, I still felt like I was the same little girl stuck in her bed. Even as King William's voice announced my father's execution, with organ removal live on television, I still felt helpless. Even as we watched as he was kept conscious but free of pain, as organs were removed in front of him one by one, I still felt like he could hurt me. Even when his heart was finally the last organ removed from his torso, I still didn't feel free. I am glad I don't dream anymore. If I did, I think I would dream of my daddy's voice telling me that death isn't a barrier to him anymore. I can't even take comfort in him being executed. He brought me back, he brought mommy back, and he brought Adrian back. I sometimes wonder about mommy and Adrian. The Vanguard told me that mommy was dead, so they cremated her, so I'm hoping that brings her a permanent peace, although I don't know where she is now. Adrian is a bigger mystery. The Vanguard told me that he was still alive when they took him away, and I know he is still out there somewhere. I wonder if he also feels like he's in a body that isn't his, or if he is more comfortable not knowing anything. A family that was separated by death and then brought back together by death before being separated by life. Mommy is gone, and I'm hoping that Daddy really is gone. And wherever Adrian is, I hope he is happy, but I do not want to seek him out. I do not want him to seek me out either. It is best we stay separated. I saw that look in his eyes as an infant, and even then I can tell you whatever happened to his soul that brought him back filled him only with evil. The same kind of evil I saw in Daddy's eyes. Wonder if a soul can be cut in such a way that it stops growing. I wonder if a heart can be so broken it can never beat again. I wonder if there is an evil so dark it can never be redeemed. I wonder if there is a death so total that it can never be undone. This letter was sent to me from the kingdom of Vespucci. The writer is someone who doesn't want me to seek her out and who wants to remain private. I am hopeful that she has continued to live a peaceful and uneventful life. However, the kind of necromancy she is discussing in her story is one that is, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't exist in any school of necromancy. Souls can be brought back to the same body fairly easily, and bodies can even be possessed by souls that aren't their own. However, to the best of my knowledge, no one is able to bring back a specific soul back to a body that isn't its own. Certainly not consistently enough to be done dozens or even hundreds of times. The very existence of such a necromancy shows that the dark magic can be made far darker than I have ever dreamed of in my worst nightmares. The type of dark magic that I am certain the necromancer is trying to seek out for himself, and all I can do is hope that Ada is wrong and that there is no such thing as an irredeemable evil.